Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And yeah, I recently posted this animation on Facebook and Reddit, and it seems like you guys liked it a lot, and a lot of you asked me to create a tutorial around it. So here's your tutorial, and yeah, in this we're gonna go ahead and look at how I animated it, and also how I created the texture that's highlighting every time the animation plays, right? So yeah, why don't we get right into it? Okay, so we'll go ahead and create a new file. So file new and general, and it gives us this default cube. Now I'm gonna delete the camera and the light because I not don't need them in this scenario. So let's do GZ1 to bring it right on the x-axis. So we've got this default cube now, right? And this is what we're gonna use to animate. I'll also show you how we can animate the other type of shapes as well, but let's look at the cube first. So in order to animate it, we are going to need some geometry in it. So to create that geometry, all I'm going to do is I'll go to the edit mode. Let me first switch on the screencast keys. Yeah, so you guys can see my keys that I press over here, right? So to go to the edit mode, I'll press tab. Now right click and subdivide. Now I'm going to subdivide it 15 times. I think that should be a good enough number. Now as you can see that every face that got created, it's a chord, right? And we can work with that, but I think the animation works better with triangles, but I'm gonna leave it to your discretion. So I'll be making it in both of those, right? So that you guys know how things work. So let's first go ahead and use the chord. So we'll go to the edit mode and click on first go to the face select mode, which you can do just by clicking 3 on your keyboard or just clicking the face select here, and then click on F3 and search for edge split. So once you do that, you get these two options. I'll select the first one, that is faces by edges. And as soon as you do that, and you go ahead and click individual origins and transform pivot points, just click on S, and as you can see that it's already separated each and every face in your object into its own individual face, right? So that is what we want. That's the first step to creating this uh, what do you say, animation. Actually I think it's way too much, so I'm gonna unsubdivide it once, actually, yeah, once. And let's go ahead and create triangles on this one, right? So we'll go ahead and go to the modifiers tab, add a decimate modifier. As to make sure that we can see what we are doing is that I'm gonna switch on wireframes by just clicking over here, and yeah, click on triangulate. This will ensure that any new face that gets created is a triangle, and then bring down the ratio by 0.5. I think that works really well for me, so I'm gonna use that same number. Now that we have it, just X out of the wireframe mode, and let's go to, well, the first thing we'll do is go ahead and apply this decimate modifier. Now if you don't know how to use the decimate modifier, I've got an entire video around that. I'm gonna link that at the top. You should be getting the card right now, and yeah, you can go check that out. It will have some useful information about each and every feature that decimate modifier has to offer, right? So just FYI, in case you guys are curious. Now go to the edit mode, go to the face select mode again by pressing 3, right? And select all, and just press F3, and again use the same option, faces by edges, like we're splitting it again by edges. And yeah, just do S to bring it down a little bit, and we've got another cube with all the triangles, right? So we got both of the cubes ready. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we'll use modifiers to create that animation effect, right? So the first one that we need is a solidify modifier, and the next one that we need is displace modifier. Now just make sure that you are keeping this sequence. So the solidify modifier should be at the top and displace modifier should be at the bottom, and that's only when you're going to get that effect. If you don't do that, you won't get that effect, right? So just ensure that we are doing that. And yeah, let's go to the displace modifier, and can you see this option new? I'm gonna just click on that, and it creates a new texture to go ahead and displace it with, right? So we are going to use this texture now to manipulate our texture. You can just click on this show textures in textures tab option here, or just click on here, and it's the same thing. It just takes you to the same page. Now the one that I use to create that animation is the Musgrave texture. Now you can use any other texture in here, and it will just give you a separate kind of animation. So just feel free to go ahead and experiment with it, and try and create multiple uh, different views as per your liking, right? So I'll go with Musgrave for this one, and I'll increase the size to 1.8. Now this, what it does is that it goes ahead and creates that effect of sinking in, right? So uh, you can again go higher if you want, or just play with it depending on how you think is the best one. So I'm gonna go with 1.8 because that looks right to me. Then this option here, I don't know how to pronounce it, so just read it. And yeah, I'll just bring it down a little bit just to give it a little bit more unevenness there. And octaves, we can just bring it up a little bit, and we'll bring down the intensity to 0.5. And now you can see that it's already giving you that amazing effect, but it's not animated yet, right? So we'll go ahead and do that too. So to animate this piece, it's very simple. We'll go ahead and add empty here, right? And add a plane axis. Now we'll use this empty to animate this, right? So in order to do that, I go to the settings or modifier settings again, or modifier properties. In the displace modifier, can you see coordinates option here? We are just simply gonna go ahead and change the local to object and select our empty as the object, right? So as soon as you do that, you can see that it's already using empty's coordinate to animate the cube that is there over there, right? So it's as simple as that, right? So now all we have to do is we have to animate our empty. So I'm going to bring up my timeline here, click on the empty, go to the object properties, and just in the rotation, I'll right click and insert keyframe. Right, once I do that, I'll go to so I want my animation to be about 250 frames. So just to make sure that I have a seamless loop, I'm gonna go ahead and go to frame 251 and just add what do you say? Add a few rotation values in here, right? So that it goes ahead and animates on its own axes, right? So as soon as I do that, you can see it's already creating that amazing effect. And now this is with the square ones. We're gonna repeat the same process. Actually, we don't have to repeat it. We can just simply click on this, click on the click on the cube that we want to apply it to, click on the cube that already has those modifiers, and just click Control L and copy modifiers. So as soon as you do that, you can see that it's already got those modifiers in there. Now both of these things are animated, so the only thing that we have to do now is just go ahead and create those textures so that it looks a little bit more amazing, right? So before we go into creating textures, I want to go ahead and go into render properties and switch on ambient occlusion, bloom, and screen space reflections, right? So these three are really important because it's just gonna go ahead and it's just gonna give you that effect when you create those textures. It's gonna look amazing, right? So make sure you have those on. Now we will go ahead and create a new texture. So for that, all you have to do is either come here in your material properties window and click new, or you can just simply go to the shader editor, which is the shading tab, and just click new over there. It's the same thing. I'm just gonna clean it up a little bit, so I'll close these tabs just by dragging it. So click on that plus sign and drag it to the direction that you want to close, to the direction of the tab that you want to close, and it just closes it. So once we are done with that, we'll use this principal BSTF. I want it to be a metallic texture, so I'm gonna bring it up to 1. specularity, I want to bring it up to 1, and roughness will go 0, right? Also, just to make sure that it has a smooth shading, I'll right click and shade smooth, and also go to the object data properties and go to normal and auto smooth, right? Just make sure you do that on both of those cubes, so that you don't have any unevenness showing up, right? So once we have done that, we'll bring the vibrance a little bit lower, and that's necessary because it just doesn't look that great here. So I'm gonna just make it a little bit darker. So I'll go with 0.03. Seems to work fine. So let's go ahead and apply the same material over here as well, so that we are doing both of these together, right? Okay, so once we're done with this, that's all for principal BSDF. Now the second thing we're gonna do is add an emission shader. So to do that, you can either click on Shift A and type the shader that you want, or just click on Add Shader, Emission Shader. So once you do that, let's add a mix shader as well to mix both of these different shaders that we created. And now principal BSDF goes in the bottom input, and emission goes in the top input, right? So just make sure that you have that sequence correct. Now it just looks odd because it's mixed together, but that's not what we want. We only want the emission to be appearing at the edges, right? So in order to do that, we'll go ahead and add a color ramp first. Take the color output and put it in the factor of the mix shader. And we'll add another node that is layer weight node. And we'll go ahead and take the facing output and put it in the factor of the color ramp, right? So it still looks odd, and that's because you got to go ahead and flip color ramp, or you can just simply go ahead and do it manually if you want to. So now you can see it's already giving you that effect slightly, but we don't want it that much. So I'm gonna bring white closer to the black side, and bring black a little bit closer to the white, right? So once you're done with it, it should give you the desired effect. Now you can tweak it. If you want more, just bring it away a little bit. If you want less, just bring it closer, right? So that's how it works. Let's increase the emission a little bit so that you can see it better. So yeah, that's pretty much it to be creating that effect. So that effect is already created with the texture. Now we are going to go ahead and well, actually, as you can see, it's just applying evenly everywhere, right? And that doesn't look that great. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a noise texture here, and take the factor and add it into the blend of the layer weight, and we can increase the scale a little bit, and increase the details too. Reduce the roughness to about 0.2 and add some distortion in it. So yeah, this looks pretty cool. So for example, if you're still wondering what's happening, can you see this? Now it just does not have a straight line that's glowing. It has different values, right? It's glowing. It has a little bit of that noise pattern, and that's what we were aiming for. So you can just adjust the scale to your liking, and once you're done with that, let's move on to the emission shader to add those different colors that are gonna glow differently, right? So let me go ahead and add a color ramp again. A color ramp is a very useful node, and you can probably use it for everything that is there, because it gives you a little bit more control over the things that you're doing in your node editor, right? Or a shader editor. So add a color ramp. The next thing I will add is noise texture. We'll take the factor and add it to the color ramp. Now this noise texture is going to enable us to make sure that we have multiple colors in your shader, right? And then the next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and add a gradient texture. Now this will make sure that we have a wide range of colors. So gradient color, what it does is basically it goes ahead and checks the number of colors that are there in between the two ranges that you have selected. Like for example, I selected these two ranges. It will check what are the different colors in between them, and probably try and add both of those in your in your object, right? So basically that's the purpose of this gradient texture. We're going to change it to easing, just to give it a little bit of that fall off effect. And yeah, over here as well, ease. So okay, so now we have again, you can just simply change the colors to your liking over here. I'm gonna go with a little bit of red and orange, and the third color that I'll add is probably would be a little bit of yellow. So let's just bring this here. Yeah, that's about it. So this looks pretty good for now. Let's bring this down a little bit so it looks a little better. So we'll do 0.2. We'll reduce the roughness over here too, so that it mixes with each other a little better and add some distortion. Right, so yeah, our objects are created, and you can do one more thing if you want to. I didn't do it in the original one, but you can just simply do that. It's to change the noise texture from 3D to 4D, and add your mapping node and make sure it's connected to the object coordinates. So once you're done with that, just go ahead and let me apply scale to these. Sorry, it just looks a little bit odd to me, so I'm just trying to adjust it. Okay, this looks way better. So let's bring down the scale to 0.1. It wasn't looking like this before, but some reason it looks odd now. So you can again play with it as much as you want, and the more options that you change here, the better the results gonna be. So I'm gonna bring the roughness all the way down to 0.1, reduce, add a little bit more distortion in here, and yeah, this looks amazing. Okay, so yeah, you can even animate this noise texture now. So you just make sure you change it to 4D, and in this W section here, all you have to do is add hash factor. Now as soon as you do that, you sometimes get this option, just click on allow execution. So what it's going to do is it's going to check your timeline and just automatically animate your noise texture as per your timeline. You can either go through this option or manually just right click and insert keyframe and go ahead and keep adding your keyframes if you want to go that route, right? If you want a little bit more control. But for the sake of time, we're going to do this. Now we have everything ready, and if I run this, the animation is already created and just looks amazing. You can adjust the the scale and the medieval here just to your liking, just so that you can increase it and decrease it, and it's going to give you a different effect. Plus the strength as well. If you reduce it or increase it, it's going to give you a different effect altogether. And now that this is created, it's very simple to just duplicate it into a different object, right? So all you have to do is, let's say I'm going to add an icosphere. Let's move it somewhere on the x-axis, and actually I need a little bit more geometry. So icosphere, move it on the x-axis. Sorry. Okay, last time. Icosphere, and we are going to make sure that we have more geometry in this. So we'll increase the subdivisions to 4, increase the size a bit, apply scale, move it on x-axis, and hit tab. Now again, same thing, F3, sorry, let's pause it, F3, and split those faces and just scale it down a little bit. Now that's all you need to do, right, to add this animation. So all you have to do is select this, select the object you want to apply it to, select the object that already has those properties, and click on Control L and link material, then Control L once again and copy modifiers. Now it's ready. You have your animation applied to a different object altogether, and you can repeat this process to as many objects as you want, and it's just going to give you that same effect on those as well, right? So for your benefit, I'm also going to add this Blender file in the description. You guys can download it from there and experiment with it if you would like. And I really hope that this tutorial was helpful to you guys and it made sense. So if it did and if you liked it, just make sure to drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe. And yeah, comment, share, let me know if there's something that I missed and you want to be improved. Let me know down in the comment section. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for hanging out so far.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us.